Welcome to the Industry Show. I'm your host, Nitin Bajaj, and joining me today is Drew Vernon. Drew, welcome on the show.
Thank you for having me, Nitin.
Pleasure is all ours. So let's get started with the big question. Who is Drew?
I am the marketing director for Tonies, but who am I? I'm a marketer. I went to school for brand and product management, and I started out in beauty. I worked for some beauty companies, including Procter & Gamble. I worked my way into the toy industry, worked for Lego for a few years before coming to Tonies. That's kind of more of the business side. On the personal side of things, I'm married. I've got 3 kids. And try to do some hobbies now and then. I play tennis and do pottery, but that's myself in a nutshell.
Quite a variety there, and looking forward to getting to know you better. So tell us more about Tony's. What's the mission, the vision, and also tell us a little bit about the size and scale of the operations.
Sure. Tony's is a German company that started in 2016 by a couple of dads who met on the board of a preschool together. They noticed that their children's teacher was using a CD player in the classroom to play songs and stories, and they thought themselves, CDs are kind of old technology at this point. They scratch and they break, and most importantly, a young child can't use it without an adult supervising them. Young kids 2 or 3 years old. So they created a product called the Tony Box, which is a figure-based system. You put a magnetic figure on the box and it'll play whatever it's programmed to play. So we have different types of characters, whether it's Dr. Seuss stories or Disney princesses. We do, Peppa Pig, Paw Patrol, all of the different children's favorite characters. And it was just kind of an immediate success over in Europe. So they launched it in Germany and expanded to the United Kingdom. I helped launch the United States about 2 years ago. And now that we're about 6 years into the company, we've sold 4 million Tony boxes.
Wow.
We're publicly traded. And right now we're on track to make about $250, $300 million this year.
That's amazing. That's a huge impact. And, you're going to an audience, you're getting them early, and you're being a part of their development process. You kind of touched upon this, but if we can talk a little more about why do this and why do this now, right? So you talked about older technology and then coming in with this newer tech, but it's also very simple and easy for kids to use. So tell us a bit more about the why.
Sure. I think when the founders invented the product, it was really to put the control into the hands of the children because they wanted to give them an independent play experience where the child can put the figure on the box. Because there's no screen, all of the navigation of the content is done through tactile play. So you actually just give the box a whack on the side, they'll advance it to the next track or the next song. And it's really a great independent device for that. What the founders didn't anticipate was the COVID-19 pandemic. And that has kind of changed the game for us a little bit because when that happened, our schools shut down, people started working from home, and we started to develop some pretty bad habits, I think. And namely, we were giving our children smartphones, we were giving them TV screens, Netflix shows, and we were doing this at younger ages and for longer periods of time. And so now that we're kind of hopefully coming out of the pandemic, we have these bad habits which remain, which is leading to too much screen time among kids. And the Tony Box is designed to be something that can entertain and educate a child in the way that a screen does, but without having them be glued to a screen.
Out of curiosity and for the benefit of our audience, how does content get on there? Who gets to choose it? And how often can you change it?
So we have great franchise licensor relationships with a lot of different entertainment and media companies. As I mentioned, Dr. Seuss, Disney, Universal, major publishers. And so we create the figures that will have the content and the stories from which they come. On the technical side of things, like if you have a Disney character, for example, you put that on the box, it will use Wi-Fi to download the content from the internet, and they'll download it onto the box. And so once you've done that, it will be on the box, and then it can be a disconnectable experience where you can take it in the car, you can take it on an airplane, and you don't need to always be connected after the initial download.
That's really cool. And, simple is not easy, but you made it extremely simple for your audience to get to that content. As simple as this sounds like, there's a lot of pieces that you're pulling together, partnerships, content, updates. Tell me about the biggest challenge you're facing as a business.
I would say the challenge is a good one, which is just keeping up with the growth. I come from working from for older companies. So Procter and Gamble, I think, is 175
Mhm.
some years old. Lego is 90 years old. Tony's is only 6 years old, and it's only 2 in the United States. So it's a very young company, but it's very much in demand. And so we have expanded our distribution. This year we got into Target, and we're getting into other big box stores as well. And we're doing that with a very small and agile team. So our biggest challenge is literally just building the company as we build, or I should say, building the organization as we build the company.
That is indeed a great challenge to have. What's the most exciting opportunity?
So it's funny. I started out in beauty, as I mentioned, and
Mhm.
went over to Lego, got into the toy industry. It was there that I really became an advocate for children. And I did a program with pediatricians that was a success. And I really saw that as an opportunity, not just to sell toys, but to improve the childhood experience. So the most exciting opportunity for me is to do that. And I really believe that childhood matters. We only get one.
Mhm.
And we as parents and educators have the ability to shape what that childhood looks like. And I truly believe that the Tony box is a positive element to a child and to a childhood. And so that's what I am doing my part in, is improving that childhood experience.
And congratulations to you. And it is indeed such a motivating and also uh, rewarding experience, right? When you get to see the joy on the faces of the children when they're able to define their own experiences. It's truly rewarding. So kudos to you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I have children of my own, and I work with educators. I work with children, and it's always a rewarding experience.
Now, when we talk about your career as we look back, Procter and Gamble, Lego, and now with Tony's, I would love to hear from you one experience that blew your own expectations and was a success beyond your imagination. And on the other side, something that did not work out as you had planned and maybe became a lesson learned.
Sure. Yeah, I alluded to it. One of the things I'm most proud of from my time at Lego was a program that I created called Prescription for Play.
Mhm.
And it was a program in which I partnered with pediatricians to encourage parents to play with their children for at least 15 minutes a day. And I developed the program. I thought that I might, I made a goal of getting into 100 doctors' offices. And I went to pitch this down to the pediatricians at one of their conferences. And I came away with it with 2,500
Wow.
doctors that wanted to be a part of it. So that's kind of when the light bulb moment went off for me. It ended up becoming, it went all the way up to the top of the Lego leadership. They ended up making it a global initiative for the company. So that was one of the successes that I am proud of. On the other side of things, one of the lessons that I learned actually also occurred while I was at Lego. If running the preschool business for them was not enough, I decided to take on an entrepreneurial endeavor of starting my own business. And it was then that I started a state licensed drop-in daycare center in Connecticut. And as I researched that and put that together and opened that, it really just became too much. On top of a full-time job, I had a staff of about 10 people. I had a pretty high overhead, and I ended up having to sell the business after just a couple of months. And what I learned from that is to know my limits, to not take on too much, and to really just try to focus on the most important things.
Great lessons to learn. And as they say, the sooner you learn them, sooner you put them into practice, you can continue to move on with those lessons. Which also brings me, it's a good segue to my favorite part of the show. We call it the one-line life lessons. And I would love for you to share your life lessons with us and our audience.
Sure. Yeah. So this was a fun one. You gave me the heads up on these questions. So I
Yeah.
actually had a chance to think about this. And I don't know if it makes a lot of sense to other people. And I don't know if I've actually even shared it with other people. But one of the things I like to tell myself is that every day you have to wake up twice. Because you're sleeping, you wake up, that's the first time that you wake up. I think that there's kind of like a second time you have to wake up, which is just to realize your true potential, that you have a choice on what your attitude is going to be and how you're going to deal with the challenges that you face. We're not able to always choose our circumstances or our challenges, but we can choose how we approach it and how we what our attitude is. So one thing I tell myself is every day you must wake up twice.
I really love that. Thanks for sharing. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess a couple others. I follow Seth Godin. He's a popular blogger, podcaster. He likes to talk about how you have to pick yourself. A lot of people wait around, try to be picked. They want their boss to notice them. They want a recruiter to notice them. And really, nobody is going to be watching out for you like you. And so that's just speaking again to your own self-empowerment. Maybe it's speaking again to your attitude and your ability to shape your own potential and circumstances. So pick yourself would be my second one. A third one is, I think this came from probably some some hippie spiritual leader. I can't remember who, but he said, "Be here now," which is just speaking to being present. I obviously passionate about avoiding screen time. Not to say that I don't have screen time or that my kids don't have screen time, but I think it's a big distraction. And I think it takes us away from the present, away from the here and now. If we're always scrolling, we're always watching shows. And so I try to set limits on that. And I try to be here now, especially when it comes to interacting with other people around me in real life. I try to give them my undivided attention.
So simple in theory, but so difficult with all of the stimulus coming at us every second of the day. So kudos to you on that practice and staying true to it.
I'm not perfect. Everybody, has their addictions. I have my, moments of screen addiction as well, but it's something that I try to remind myself.
True.
Let's see. How many of these are we going for? A couple more.
Would love them. I love what I've heard, so I would love to hear more.
Yeah, I think I might just have one more thought, which I don't know if it's snippy or concise, but I really just believe that there's a greater potential in exploring innovation than sometimes we believe. Like sometimes people take the world for what it is and not necessarily what it can be. And so I've always tried to focus on my career on how things can change for the better, and to not just take the status quo at face value, but to always try to question why something better or more efficient or more helpful can't exist. And so that's what I've done in my professional life with the programs that I've developed, and that's guided a lot of my personal decisions as well.
I love that it brings all of your other perspectives, your lessons together, right? Where you get to pick up and paint the colors that you want to see, right? So you get to be that change maker that you see the change that needs to happen. You go and make that change. So thanks for sharing
Yeah.
those lessons. Yep.
And I don't want to underestimate how difficult it is,
Of course.
because, someone listening to this might be thinking, it's not that easy just to you can do whatever you set your mind to and you just wish it into existence. There's definitely a lot of work, and like that's one thing that I've learned the hard way, is that it's easy to have an idea, it's easy to wish something to be better, but the difficulty comes with the grit and the implementation of the idea, and that's something that I still kind of wrestle with.
Absolutely. And that's why the previous things, the previous lessons you shared, where you get to make those choices, right? Do you want to live with the status quo, or do you want to do something about it? And doing something about it is not going to be easy. But if that's what you want, and that's the change you want to bring about, and if you're successful at it, that's that's what you become. And well, thanks again, Drew, for sharing those lessons and also sharing your journey and story. I really appreciate it. And also to you and the founders of Tonies for bringing such a wonderful tool to help shape our future. Thank you.
Well, thank you again for having me. I've enjoyed our conversation, and I appreciate it.